everyone to the final Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the year. Let everyone know the board does not write the zoning ordinance, but does have the authority to grant relief from where practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship would result. The board will vote on each agenda item following the public hearing. Use variance requests require a minimum of 6 affirmative votes in order to grant the requested variances. Non-use variance requests require a minimum of 5 affirmative votes in order to grant the variances. Please note that any order of the board is valid for a period of 1 year. If you would like to request that the board table or adjourn your case to the absence of a full board, you must inform the chairperson immediately after the public hearing. By the way, we are down 1 person tonight. Petitioners shall do their best to limit presentations to 10 minutes. Each participant in a public hearing shall do their best to limit comments to 3 minutes. All right. As stated, we are down 1 member. Ms. Zukin, unfortunately, is not here. Is there any amendment or motion to approve the minutes for November 14th, 2024? Mr. Lane Weber.
I move to approve the minutes from the November 14th, 2024 meeting.
Is there a second? Okay, I think I saw Mr. Reddy's hand up for that one. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Unfinished business. Case number 24-11-33 for, what was it, 633 South Alexander.
Yes, the petitioner did notify staff that they're unable to attend the meeting tonight, so they have formally requested that you all postpone again until next month.
Okay. And we had the public hearing last month, so is there any comments or motions to postpone this for another month? Mr. Moore.
Motion to postpone for another month.
Okay, is there a second? I think I saw Mr. Wolf for that. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. It's postponed for another month. So we'll move to new business. Case number 24-12-35 for 3107 North Main Street. Whenever you're ready, you may take it away.
Thank you. The subject property is located on the west side of North Main Street, just south of 13 Mile Road, and it's within the one-family residential zoning district. And the property is developed with a single-family dwelling, and there's also a detached garage at the rear of the property. There is an existing 11 3/4 foot wide driveway which extends along the side yard going towards the rear of the property. And the petitioner is proposing to widen the driveway by 7 feet within the front yard area, which is going to be extending into the further into the front yard, and it would be from the front lot line to the front walkway to the house. And the zoning ordinance doesn't allow residential parking areas such as driveways to extend into the front yard of the house. So the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive the prohibition for a driveway to extend into the front yard. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Mr. Clapp.
This may be an odd question, but one of the photos, this page 5 of 9, shows one of the cars on the front lawn. Is that prohibited in the city? Like, is it illegal to park a car on the front lawn?
Yes, so technically any vehicle has to be parked on a hard paved surface,
Okay.
such as concrete or asphalt driveway.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Wolf.
Alex, this might be a little bit off topic, but sometimes you see some cars on like pavement on a main street, say Campbell, where it looks like the car is on the driveway, but isn't really on the driveway parked. What is the difference between that and, say, what the petitioner wants to do tonight?
Well, the area where you may be referring to is actually within the city's right-of-way, so that would be under the engineering set of rules and standards. So I'm not, in terms of the zoning ordinance, there's nothing that would, I guess, speak on that behalf. But based upon what the petitioner is proposing for extending the driveway into the front yard on their own private property, then yes, that requires a variance.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Just one more question too.
Sure.
If they were to use more like a permeable paver or something along those lines, would that be allowed? Something that allows water to penetrate?
I believe staff would probably have to review it. The zoning ordinance does state that it is up to the discretion of staff, so we would have to review whether or not it meets the definition of a hard surface material. But generally, that's pretty much only included concrete or asphalt.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Moore. And then
Yeah,
Mr.
I'm going back to the previous question about the extension into the yard. I think you're talking about like the T-shaped ones that you see on Campbell. And it says at the bottom of page 1 that T-shaped and horseshoe shape are allowed, but the conditions are unable to be met.
Ms. Reddy, was that what you were?
This is another strange one, which is we often get the maximum driveway width request. This doesn't seem to have one, but I'm wondering, when we get those maximum driveway width, we don't usually also get this variance regarding the front yard. So I'm wondering how is it that those places are able to, is it just that the extended driveway is still in the side yard? Is that why?
I'll do my best to answer.
Yeah, I know it's a strange question.
Yeah.
I mean, my question is, if the width is that wide, presumably it would be requiring a similar variance.
Yeah, and there's certain situations, let's say for example, there's a attached garage and it may look like it's extending, but the position of our office has always been if it's not extending past, I guess, the facade of the garage, of the attached garage itself, then we would still consider that to be a side yard extension. In this case, that doesn't really apply.
Quick one for you. If the curb cut was actually that width of what they're asking for, say it would be 25 feet instead of the 18 it is now, would this be coming before the board, or would it not, because it would be part of the curb cut?
Yeah, that would be part of the curb cut, which is in the city's right of way. We measure the driveway width at the property line itself.
So if they actually went and created a new curb cut to make it that width, then it wouldn't come before us?
It would have to go before engineering for their
Right,
permits.
but
Yes.
assumed engineering signed off, then it wouldn't be before. Okay.
My question was, do we know how long this ordinance has been in place? And I asked just because I didn't have a chance to drive by, but I did see on Google Maps across the street, there's a similar property, very narrow, and there is a driveway with a
Yeah,
house
but that's the
right.
curb cut, that's why I was asking.
Okay, I got you.
Because there's goes.
Well, yeah, but the driveway itself
Right,
is in front of, and that would need a variance no matter where the curb cut is,
Right.
we'd still have to have a variance for the ordinance, or for the driveway itself, I would assume, even if the curb cut was already in place.
No, that's why I was asking
Okay.
about the curb cut.
So just to clarify, sorry, speaking out of turn, if there was a curb cut here behind the extra space they're requesting, that would be compliant?
Yeah, because it would still would be within the compliant width. It just still would need to get an engineering permit for work within the right of way.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry for the confusion.
Any other questions? Seeing none, if the petitioner is present, you may come forward and present your case. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's John Deemer, property owner. My partner Julie. lives with me.
Elzer?
First meeting, I'm not sure what's.
You'll want to present your case as to what the hardship is of why you
Yeah.
need this variance versus what you have already and why that can't work with what it is. Practical difficulty of why that hardship is.
There's a few reasons. Primarily, we have multiple drivers. It's a single file driveway, and it would require us driving down to the next cross street to leave a car to reposition, and to be able to park a car off to the side and get by it is one of the things that we'd like to accomplish or be able to do. The other,
Foremost.
my mother-in-law has moved in with us. She's in a wheelchair, and that's a recent development since I applied for this, but
In fact,
we really
that's why the
need,
car
that's
was
why the
parked
car's there. We
in-
need,
we
we
have-
need space to,
Build a wheelchair up
And from the
to
side.
the entrance of the house. Unfortunately, there is not enough enough space for the wheelchair to get to the,
Side of the
entrance-
car.
Side of the car, into the entrance of the home. And that is our,
One
highest
of our-
priority.
Okay.
One of our driving factors or forces here.
Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Moore?
Yeah, can you explain why the T-shape cannot be done in your yard instead of having it that way? Like, the T-shape is allowed, so if it was like this, like, why can the car not be parked that direction?
Okay, until right now, I haven't thought about it, but thinking about it, I believe, with the turning radius and stuff, I don't know if you're talking about
In front of the home.
in between the two sidewalks, there would be
Yeah, because our
an
packet says
extension.
that the site is unable to meet these conditions. I don't know if that information came from you or from somebody else, but I'm just,
It came from someone else, but I struggle to see how it would probably require more concrete
okay.
because of the turning radius and to be able to get in there from the existing, I'll call it single file driveway. I don't know how wide it would have to be to make that corner, and then you need a car length. And thinking about it out loud right now, I don't know how not sure how it helps us with the maneuvering of a wheelchair to get it into the car we need to, but
Well, I mean, if you had enough,
Maybe you
if you
could
had
help
enough
us.
width,
You probably have
you'd be
more
fine.
wisdom than us there.
I'm sorry.
If the parking pad was wide enough, I mean, you would still be fine. And it looks like you have a sidewalk going up there. I mean, the wheelchair wasn't mentioned in our packet, so that
Yeah,
was
that was a
something
new
but I just
development.
was wondering if you could explain, but we're fine. Thanks.
Other questions? Mr. Clack?
So I guess based on what we were discussing earlier, would you be opposed to, and maybe you didn't know this prior to applying, would you be opposed to widening the apron out onto the road to do that?
I heard you talking, is that what you meant by curb cut?
Yes.
Yes, like the apron leading out to the road,
The
if that
approach,
was widened
I
to
guess
match.
I had been planning I wanted to put the pad in first, but I had been planning on, and had some discussions with someone here. The approach is in pretty terrible shape as it stands today, and I had already inquired about what would I need to do to replace the approach, and I suppose if widening the approach is required, that would be the time to do it.
Seems like it might be an easier play to maneuver the vehicle in and out versus trying to cut across the, out to the apron.
I was just trying to minimize, as much as possible, but I'm not opposed to if there's some good
Variance that
reason to
could
do
be
that. I
made
don't
for
have a
that.
problem widening it to match the pad.
Mr. Wolf?
So just really quick question, so before talking to planning and applying for the variance, did you talk to the engineering department at the city?
I can't remember the lady I spoke with initially. She had said I would need to file a variance with the zoning board for the extending in front of the house. And then I had mentioned the approach needed to be, I would like to have that updated or replaced. And she said that would be a permit with the engineering department.
So we're the first stop for this, so
That's
that's,
my understanding.
okay, that makes sense. Because my thought was, why are you coming to us for something that's in engineering, but if they sent you to us first, that makes a lot more sense why you're going back that way.
I would need a permit for the approach if I didn't change it, right? If I just redid it, I would need the permit for that. But I suppose if we chose to widen it to match the pad, it would be included in the same permit.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you're going to us first, and then you're gonna go to engineering and follow whatever they tell you to do.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just what I wanted to ask.
One thing I guess I could ask you, is there a timeline for the two? Do they have to be done together? Can I put one in and then follow up with the other?
Yeah, it would be better addressed with engineering.
Okay.
Mr. Lineweather.
When I'm looking at a Google Earth image, I see your neighbor has an apron that's larger than their garage in the back of the house, presumably for an extra car to be stacked or the ability to turn around from one car to the next. It's the home to the right, I
Yes.
think, when you look in the aerial. Have you looked at something like that to instead of placing this second vehicle in the front of the house, to put it in the back of the house?
Once again, I don't think I think I have about 20 feet between the house and the garage. And when you're running down and you have that fence and the corner at the back of the house, you can't really, I'm trying to see if his looks much different. It's just difficult to cut the corner on our piece of property. He does turn around in his. He does a 3-point turn and points back out daily. I'm not sure how that helps us shuffle cars if we need to get one in front of the other car. His driveway is wider. I did not measure it, but it is wider. His house is smaller. It's got a larger setback on that particular property line.
Ms. Robinson.
Do you know how deep your house is, front to back? How many feet?
The house proper,
Yeah. I mean,
okay, I know I should know it. It's 40 feet
okay,
or
that's
45,
like 24 by 40, okay.
something like that.
And just by looking at the picture here to see that you have less space between your back of your house and the front of your garage than your neighbor.
Right. It looks tighter to me.
Yeah, well, it looks that much so here, and it also looks like their house is a little bit set forward. I don't know if that's true or not. And that would give you less space to do whatever they're talking about in the backyard. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
seeing. To
With
get
the 3-point
two
turn.
full-size pickups in your garage is going to be a little bit tight, probably.
Yeah, I've never pulled a car in the garage. It's even hard to get a
Over there.
Yeah.
car in the
It's really
garage.
tight.
Yeah.
Mr. Gavin.
You can see the garage door shifted over. I don't even try to do that.
I was just wondering if you'd talked with any of your neighbors, if you've gotten any feedback from anybody about their thoughts on the proposal of, paving in front of your house like that.
I haven't, but the two houses directly across the street, one was brought up earlier, I believe, but even the one next to it, it's concrete on the house on the north, house on the south of me has asphalt extended in front. Quite honestly, I knew I didn't need a permit for a driveway if I didn't change a footprint, and I just called down here. I almost just did it. I'm glad I called and found out. And I think I was assuming that was okay just because of what I was seeing around.
Yeah.
But I have not personally talked with anyone about it.
Any other, Ms. Robinson?
Just one other thing, observation here, just because I do pull in and out of the house a couple doors down from you, and the fact that the fact that that's a busy street that you're doing, do you find that to be a hardship more than if it was a side street kind of thing?
Absolutely. When I back out, I stop about 4 times before I reach the sidewalk. Many times there's walkers and runners going back and forth, and it's not the greatest lit road, especially in the nighttime. So before I back out to the sidewalk, I'm stopping 3 or 4 times looking back and forth, because not always do I see a person coming back and forth, and it is and I have to back out. And it's difficult. You have to find a break in the road. That's a very busy road. I'm worried about runners, walkers. It's just, a lot of times actually there's like FedEx people parked right in the middle of our driveway. And then, one time we did have the ambulance that needed to come back to the to the garage, and they actually could not get back without me. So they were able to attend the patient without me physically moving 3 cars out into the Salvation Army, which took, at least probably 10 minutes for me to grab the keys, and this is an emergent situation, and I was frantic grabbing keys, trying to figure out which key, because they all look alike, the fobs all look alike, and that was another issue, is that there's barely enough room to put a stretcher to, if somebody's back towards the garage, which was the case, to put a stretcher back there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one. How many drivers do you or cars for drivers do you have for your house?
2 drivers. The third car is the mother-in-law's who came in, and I guess we're still not sure how many cars we'll land on, but I don't think she'll ever be a driver
Okay. So theoretically 2 drivers, but 3 cars.
right now.
Right
At,
now.
at the moment, yeah.
Okay.
We had 2 trucks, and they weren't really conducive to getting her.
Yeah, one of them was
So.
a very large truck, and the other one is another large truck too, also.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, we're going to open up public comment. When we close it, I'll ask you if you want us to proceed or to delay it a month because we're down 1 person. You need 5 affirmative votes to pass. Not guaranteed next month we'll have a full board, so just keep that in mind too. Okay, so if you want, you can sit down.
No, okay.
Is anyone to speak on this case for public comment? Feel free to come forward. Going once, going twice. All right, 3 times. Public comment on this is closed. Would you like us to proceed or to delay a month?
I think we're on to proceed.
Okay, we'll bring it to this side of the board. Discussion and or motion. Anyone want to take first crack? Mr. Klatt, I saw your hand.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Moore, seconds. I saw his go up first. Go ahead, Mr. Klatt.
I mean, I understand the practical difficulty. You're jockeying cars, you're pulling out into Main Street. Looking at the gap between the garage and the back of the house, it's less than the garage depth is 20 feet. So even if you could pull cars back there and turn them 90, you're still blocking your garage doors. And then based on what we discussed, if they simply widen the apron, they can do this anyways. So I don't really see the difference here. So if we can approve it, I mean, to me, it's more cost effective to pour them both at the same time. If you're going to do the apron work in the driveway, do them at the same time. So again, it's really the same thing. So that's my rationale.
Mr. Moore.
No, I think it's been covered. The practical difficulty is pretty obvious on this one.
Other discussion? Mr. Gavin.
Yeah, I concur. I understand the discussion about widening the apron, but they're here now. They've paid the fee. We might as well vote on it. They're going to need to do this work anyway, one way or the other, if they do widen that apron. So I think that this will, it's unreasonably preventing them from using the property for a permitted purpose. I think the variance will do substantial justice to them and to other owners. It's already in existing condition at several other houses there, and we have no comments opposing it. Plight of landowners due to unique circumstances of the property. It's a very small lot. There's just not a lot of room to do anything there. So I feel like this is a small ask to relieve a practical difficulty based on the size of the lot. And the alleged hardship wasn't created by any person presently having an interest in the property. They didn't plat this neighborhood. So that's pretty much my thoughts.
Okay, other comments? Mr. Wolf.
I would also add that the practical difficulty is being on Main Street. It's a major road in our city, obviously, and having driven Main Street a million times, I can tell you that, I really appreciated what the petitioner said about the emergency vehicles, because that's something I think about, especially if I'm going one way and I see an ambulance coming the other. There's really no place for me to pull over, so.
Any other comments? Unfortunately, I will be voting against this. I don't think it meets all the non-use variance requests. I understand their concern, but there are many, many houses like this, whether on being Main Street or other streets that have the same condition where they have just 2 drivers, 3 cars, the same width of driveway, and they get away with jockeying around all the time. So it's not a unique circumstance, in my opinion. Going through it, it doesn't prevent them from already parking. Yes, they have to jockey around, and yes, that's an inconvenience. Doesn't mean they can't prevent them from parking. 3 cars in their driveway, actually, they can probably park 4. But it's just a pain of moving it around. I agree. I understand that. It would do them substantial justice, as well as other property owners. I don't know. The plight of the landowners due to unique circumstance of the property. Like I said, other properties have the same circumstance, whether it be Main Street or not, so it's not unique in my mind. And the alleged hardship has not been created by any other person having interest in this property. Unfortunately, having the 3 cars, that is their own hardship that they brought upon themselves. So unfortunately, because not all have been met in my eyes, I can't vote for this. That's my only reason. If there's any other discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, your variance has passed. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will move on to case number 24-12-36, 1317 Butternut Avenue. Whenever you're ready, you may take it away.
This property is also an interior lot. It's located on the south side of Butternut Avenue within the one-family residential zoning district. And the property is currently developed with an existing single-family structure and garage, and in both of which the petitioner is proposing to demolish. In its place, the petitioner is proposing to construct a new 2-story single-family dwelling with a front entry attached garage. And the zoning ordinance states that attached garages are not allowed to be more than 50% of the total width of the principal building's primary facade. Years ago, some of you may have been serving on the board at the time, there was actually an application for an administrative appeal which challenged how staff was supposed to apply this provision. And the board at the time adopted the following motion as a directive to staff, which I'll briefly outline. It says, "The width shall not correlate to the floor plan. The width shall be calculated at the wall plane of the front facade. The total width of an accessory structure / garage shall equal the width of the overhead door from edge to edge, plus twice the distance from the edge of the overhead door to the outside edge of the exterior wall of the structure." So in simple terms, what that means is that staff would calculate the garage by taking 2 times the width of the outer wall and then adding it to the width of the garage. I understand that that may be difficult to visualize, so I did provide you all a handout for your reference, which shows how staff conducted that calculation. So based upon the design of the house, staff calculated a total garage width of 55.3%. So that means that the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive 5.3% from the requirement that an accessory building cannot be more than 50% of the total width of a principal building's primary facade. Thank you.
Questions? No questions? All right. Seeing none, if the petitioner is present, you may come forward and present your case.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Tim Loughran. I'm the Vice President of Land Acquisition for Robertson Homes. Tonight I actually have 3 members of Robertson also with me. I have Darian Newbecker, our President, Bob Doyle, our COO, and Jack Flynn, our Land Ac Analyst. We don't always bring our whole crew in here. Admittedly, they're all Royal Oak residents, so it kind of was easy for them to get here. But thank you for your time tonight. I got to be honest, I've never been in this building. All the times I've been in your other building for our Normandy Oaks approvals and our Lexington on the Park and Sherman Oaks, it's quite a different a room in here, so I think that's pretty interesting. Simply put, trying to find another Normandy Oaks is very difficult to find land. So we're building what we're calling our in-town building division. and focusing on individual homes. So we can build per your ordinance the way that it's been interpreted. We just don't feel that actually we feel strongly that the interpretation and the application of your ordinance doesn't lead to good design. In fact, it's detrimental to good design. I want to start by saying we believe that your zoning ordinance, the language is not really applicable to homes with attached garages. I've kind of laid that out in here. The wording clearly refers to a separate building structure. In fact, the definition of garage calls out an accessory building or portion of a main building. Of course, this is a portion of the main building, so we don't even think we're an accessory building. Having said that, I know that's how you've applied this over numerous years, and obviously Alex had to tell me about 5 times on how you actually do interpret this for me to understand. I've been doing this 25 years. I've actually never come across anything like this before, but I understand that's how you apply this. And you can't fight City Hall. So we're here to discuss the variance that we have in front of you today. So specifically, it's to section 770-22A8. And specifically, a typical lot in your city is 50 feet. You've got 5 and 5 foot setbacks. Typical building that we would build, and what you see out there, 39, 40 feet. When you strictly apply this interpretation, you're just doing the math, you're really never going to be able to make it with a traditional style development. You're going to get houses like what I've showed on my narrative here, which is actually our neighbor on Butternut, where you have very, very thin wing wall. The problem with that, there's many issues with doing that, but one of the issues is you've got to put the trash bins outside. You cannot put the trash bins in your garage. Obviously that's not good for aesthetics. It's also not good for sanitation. And this picture has, our neighbor has their bins outside. That's what it's going to lead to. And that's just not something that we think is right. The other thing, it really negatively affects the design of the elevation. As you can see there, I think that accentuates the garage. This is what you're looking at here is what we're proposing. But our neighbor, with that thin wing wall, it really accentuates the garage door. Other communities like City of Farmington calculated by the actual width of the garage door itself, and we're well under 50% for that. That really is what should count. By interpreting the way you do, frankly, you're just making it more garage prominent in our mind. This is a much better design. It reduces the scale of the garage with the interpretation that we think should be applied. So that's the main argument we have. The other, obviously, some of the things that are affecting that are the use of the garage. So not just for trash bins, but being able to utilize, these are standard garages that we're proposing. There's just not enough room within the garage for a modern family to utilize their home. So this is something that's important to us. This is something that we're here tonight to show you that it's that important to us. Of course, we could build it the way your ordinance is written. We just don't think that is conducive to good design and actually makes any sense. So I've laid out our arguments as far as the practical difficulties. I've gone through this. I can go through this one by one if you like, but just quickly, as far as unreasonable to prevent the owner from using the property for permitted use, we just don't see that the strict applicability of that ordinance is really allows for modern family living and the secure storage of vehicles. We think it does not do any injustice to surrounding area or surrounding property owners. In fact, it'll actually be worse for surrounding property owners because you'll have a less aesthetically pleasing home, and it'll undermine the functionality as well. We think it is due to unique circumstances. It's unique because of the math I'm talking about. Typically with a 50-foot and again the 5 and 5 foot setbacks, there just doesn't seem to be any way you can apply your standards and have a house that would meet what a modern family would be looking for. And then as far as not being created by anybody having an interest, again, these are unforeseen and undue challenge based on your existing zoning ordinance and the lot size in general. So I'm happy to go through it a little bit more in detail if you'd like, but I think those are really the highlights. It's aesthetics, it's the usability of the garage. And again, we can move forward with this. We'd like to do a lot more of these homes in your community. We think that this is a much better aesthetic and much better livability, and we'd like to have your comments and move forward with a variance so we can get started on this house. So any questions you have, I'm happy to answer.
Questions? Yes, Mr. Wolf.
Do you have a buyer already lined up for this, or is this going to be put on the market once it's complete?
It'll be put on the market as we're nearing completion, yes.
Mr. Clerk.
My question is more for Alex. So, if we're looking at 50%, right, the house is 39 feet wide. So doing the math on that, splitting it down the middle, based on the thickness of the wall, that would lead to about an 18-foot wide interior for the garage. Is that correct, if I did the math right?
Well, they should
No, I
say
know,
24.
but I'm
He's
saying though,
in
if it were to
general, would be-
comply,
yes.
if it was forced to comply, the interior width of that garage would be about 18 feet.
Yeah.
So that's you're not going
That's
to put
correct.
2 cars in that. Okay, I just want to make sure my math was right.
Any other questions? I have a couple. This is a very deep lot. Why, first off, the garage is prominent of the house. It could have easily been pushed back a little bit farther, even if you kept the same width, or more so, even pushed all the way to the backyard. And because you have such a deep there, and could have had a single driveway down to the back of it that still could be attached.
Yeah, correct. So, we built this particular house in other communities. We know what buyers are looking for. This is what they're looking for. This is based on an existing product that we have. And we think that this is a house that would be, obviously would fit in well with Royal Oak and what buyers are looking for in this market.
Okay, so just because you've done it in other markets, not here, and you're trying to do
We
it
think
here.
this is
Okay.
a good choice for this lot, yes.
Okay. Mr. Clayton.
Oh, Anthony, I see your point. One thing I argue though is that if you push the house, there's like a nice street wall right there with the adjacent property. So if we push the house back, it might create a bit of a abnormality. Is that what you're suggesting, pulling the house deeper into
Yeah, I
the
was
lot?
saying you could either have pushed the garage back, had the house part more formally pulled forward, the garage pushed back, or you could put the garage all the way in the backyard farther and just drive down the side of the house,
Okay.
where many other houses have similar type.
And that certainly affects the design of the house. I mean, that creates a floor plan that's much less desirable, in our opinion.
Mr. Reddy.
Yeah, so I have a question. First of all, though, I would like to say this is very well written and argued, and I appreciate the effort that went into this. My only issue is with requirement C regarding uniqueness. And I think 50-foot width lots are not unique in Royal Oak. So that's going to be my issue, and I'm wondering, do you have any data on how this lot is unique as far as that goes? Because I think 50-foot is not.
Yeah, I think the way we look at it from being unique, this is, the front entry garage is more of a modern style, whereas obviously when everything was platted, and previously it was when there were more detached garages. Now, we do build detached garage. Obviously, you guys are probably familiar with our Normandy Oaks, which has that. But for this particular buyer and the price point we're looking for, with the convenience of having the front entry garage, that's why it's unique as far as being placed on the lot, whereas other homes could certainly you see them with a detached garage.
Ms. Robinson.
I am a longtime life resident of
Yes.
Royal Oak. And Royal Oak is a city of front porches. And that's what's kind of really made our community, where neighbors know one another, are very friendly with one another. And it keeps people here in this city for a long time. You don't see neighborhoods turning over quickly. I happen to be in the business of selling real estate and being a broker for over 35 years and knowing why people it brings here. For that reason, we have this ordinance saying we don't want the garages taking up 50% of or more of the house. And on a 50-foot lot, a lot of our lots, especially in the more downtown area here, they're 40 by 125. And that's why we have these big front porches, and it brings people out. Here you've got 50 foot and what, a 200-foot deep lot. There's a lot of space in there that you could design something that does put the garage more in the back of the property and bring that house forward. This does work in, you know, other subdivision type lots.
Yeah, and I appreciate your comments. Obviously, we do have a very generous porch on that, which is a big focus of it. You're seeing it in two-dimensional, obviously, but that's a big portion of that a home. So again, the literal interpretation would be essentially minimizing those wing walls and accentuating that, and that's what you're going to see rather than the porch. So that is what we're trying to focus on is the other elements of the elevation, not the garage.
Mr. Wolf?
I know this is not something we have to consider, but just to go off of Mr. Reddy's question, would there be a significant, if you were to sell this house with a detached garage, would that be a significant, like, would you be able to sell it for much less? And if so, approximately how much less, kind of typically in generalities?
It isn't, you're right, financial stuff doesn't, but, okay, I'll let it go.
Just very generally, just because I'm asking.
It would certainly be less, yes. I don't know the number on the top of my head, but it would certainly be less. We've built those, just that style, you know, from a size perspective, but also from a convenience, having the attached garage, definitely it would be less.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Mr. Moore, then Mr. Klatt.
Yeah, I'm going to go to your explanation of the point number 1 here about the ordinance restrictions and reasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose. You could build a house here with a detached garage, correct? You're wanting to build a specific product that's in your product list. Can you tell me why you're seeing that you couldn't build a house here, which is a permitted purpose?
So again, we believe that the market is telling us that they want an attached garage, and that's really what's driving this conversation. So we build both. We build a lot of detached garages, especially in the city, and certainly there's a certain buyer segment that would be interested in doing that. I think in this particular street, it's a very nice street, and you can see our neighbor actually has an attached garage as well. That is what modern buyers are looking for. So. You're correct. We certainly could do that. And like I said before, we could design this to have very thin one walls, and then you guys won't see us again other than you'll see the houses around. And we just don't think that that's good design. So to answer your question, we certainly could do something different. We think that this is the best, highest and best plan for the lot.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Klatt.
I mean, I see the challenge, and I understand the spirit of the ordinance. We're trying not to build garage-dominant, you know, homes, correct? But, you know, as an architect that designs single-family homes, I also know that probably 99.9% of our clients want attached garages. And I know this is a well-respected developer in town, you know, many beautiful developments, and they know their market, they know the marketplace. So the challenge is, what I respect though, is that they're trying to build a quality product. I asked the math on that one. So if they were forced to comply, an 18-foot wide garage might check the box on a listing ticket that it's 2 cars, but it doesn't work. It's really a single car with storage. So at least respect, they're trying to build a quality home that fits 2 vehicles and the other amenities that they're talking about. So that's the argument I would pose to that.
And have you ever looked at doing it, just having an attached garage in the back, so you're driving in and circle around into the back?
So again, that would certainly affect the livability of the house. If you do that, and we've actually built something like that in Milford, and if actually we built it in Normandy Oaks, that completely ruins the back portion of your house. There's no view out to your rear yard, and it's very unusable. So that is, I don't think, something that would be viable here from a perspective of a buyer looking for that home.
Mr. Gavin.
Did you talk to any of the neighbors? Get any feedback from anybody in the area?
We've spoken
from other
yes,
households?
we've spoken to some neighbors, certainly. We've had a couple that are very excited that we're here and cleaning it up, and that really is the worst house on the street. So they've been
clearly.
very, very supportive in that respect, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Wolf.
And just to talk about that house, it looked like it was destroyed by fire or something. Can you, do you have any information on it? When did you acquire the property?
We acquired it about 4 or 5 months ago. It's just in poor condition. It is.
It's gone. not there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not,
demolished.
yeah, I have not had a chance to go out and
You're
look
talking
at
about
it, so
the
that's
pictures.
part
Yeah,
of
you're
it.
talking about the pictures.
Yeah.
It was not cared for whatsoever.
Okay.
That's probably the best way to say it.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we'll go to public comment. Again, as stated before, if there's, after public comment, you'll have to let us know if you want us to proceed or delay a month. Public comment on this is open. Anyone to speak? Going once? Going twice? All right, public comment's closed. Would you like us to proceed or to delay a month and hope that we have a full board, but it's not guaranteed?
Please proceed. We'd like to move forward.
Okay, we'll bring this out of board motion and or discussion. Anyone? Miss, yes.
Looking at this, I think the situation, most of the houses on that block have the garages in the back. The lots are quite deep. There's pools, there's other uses, so these detached garages are not overwhelming the lot itself. I see the design quality that they're trying to put in here, but I think that the ordinance and the interpretations that have been established are pretty clear, that this is too big for the size of the house that's going in. And there are other options, certainly, as you can see from the rest of the neighborhood. The detached garage is an option. It doesn't present the same. It's not the same dynamic of having a attached garage. However, I think that it may be, that approach is more in keeping with what the ordinance is intending in this kind of situation. So I'm open to discussion, but I'm tipping one way to not approve.
Understood. Any other, Mr. Klatt? Then
Maybe it's a question for the applicant. My question would be, let's say this were to be denied, would you still be building a front-facing garage?
You'd be getting, yes, you'd be getting exactly what we showed, but with the thin wing walls. We're not going to do a detached garage. So I understand that maybe that's the direction you're looking for. We just think your ordinance is flawed. We're trying to bring it to your attention. You probably should do a text amendment because we will come in with essentially that same look with thin wing walls, which is, I don't think, conducive for the neighborhood or obviously the buyer. They're going to have a very narrow garage. You're going to have the trash enclosures outside the house. So that's not a threat. That's what we're going to do. I did not submit it.
Ms. Robinson?
No, I just remember what I was going to say, so go to the next
That's all right.
person.
Mr. Moore?
I'm okay.
Any other? You may sit down. Thank you. Mr. Wolferetti, I didn't see who.
Okay. I just, it's hard for me to, I kept kind of wrapping my head around what was the practical difficulty. And I think that since this already went to the zoning administrator, if I read the staff report correctly, and this is an appeal of the zoning administrator's decision, for me, that sounds like it's self-created. So I'm torn if that's indeed self-created, then that makes me, again, kind of lean against. But I'm also not an architect, so I'm deferring a lot to my architect colleagues here because they know these things.
Mr. Reddy and then Ms. Robinson.
Well, I'll wait. I was going to make a motion, but if Ms. Robinson wants to go.
Well, I just want to say, you're saying that if we were to deny you here today, you just simply shorten your wing walls, and there's not going to be any room for your trash cans. I think that's what you had said. I mean, and that is a design thing. We have our ways saying we don't like this, we don't want the garage being more than 50%, and that's the line that we've drawn. I mean, there's also space that you can go that way too, or somehow add more depth to the garage to put your trash cans in, or build a workbench or whatever you want to. Like you said, it's a design problem here at that point to conform to what our rules are.
Not unless someone has a question for you, unfortunately. Mr. Reddy?
I move that we deny the variance.
Okay, is there a second? Ms. Robinson for the second. Go ahead, Mr. Reddy.
For me, it just comes down to the uniqueness question. I mean, I think there are really good arguments for changing the ordinance, but that's just not our job. And I think it simply comes down to lot width, and the lot width of 50 feet is not unique in our city. So that's my grounds. And again, it's very well reasoned, and I think there are good arguments for changing the ordinance, but it's not our job.
Ms. Robinson?
And I have to say that, Robertson Brothers is well known for quality. That's probably one of the best builders I know of. But also the fact that there's an option here as far as how deep this lot is too, that those changes could be made.
Mr. Wolf?
Yeah, I'll be voting in support of the motion to deny. I just, for me, I can't, this is self-created, so therefore, it doesn't meet the practical difficulty cause. Again, if it was, this was built 50 years ago and that was what the ordinance said at the time or whatever, then I would understand. Or if it was, maybe on a, different street that had less width or less depth, sorry, I would agree with that too. But there are options that this is, there are other options available, and it seems like, I don't have a garage, but I know my parents do, for example, and what used to be a 2-car garage when that house was built in 1988 is now one car garage with storage, and I think that's just where people are leaning to, even in families like the one I grew up with multiple cars. So,
Mr. Clapton, Mr. Gavin.
Yeah, I guess my only argument is that the applicant is going to build the attached garage. It's going to be front-facing, and I guess I'd rather see something that works. And I agree with their point, too, about the width of those sidewalls. With that 16-foot garage door, it's going to be pretty skinny from a structural standpoint. It might look a bit anemic. So that's my only concern.
Mr. Gavin.
I was actually really torn on this one because I agree with Mr. Reddy from the perspective of 50-foot lots width is just not unusual. That's the minimum lot width now currently under our current ordinance. So it's very common in the city. So but I also understand the arguments, in terms of Mr. Klatt, in terms of the actual usability of the garage and the design that has been put forth. And I understand your arguments. Unfortunately, this is just an appeal of this particular thing, not an appeal of the decision of the zoning administrator. And I do think that you should, talk to other people and see about possibly a change in the zoning ordinance. I can't guarantee whether or not the planning commission will even be open to that, but that is what it is. So given that, I do disagree that I don't think this is self-created. Designing something that doesn't comply with the ordinance doesn't make it self-created. I think building something and then begging forgiveness makes it self-created. I would actually like to see if legal counsel at some point would provide guidance to the board on that, on what the meaning of self-created is, so that we can have a more consistent application of that. But that's neither here nor there. I still think ultimately that the uniqueness is not there, and I don't think the restrictions of the ordinances unreasonably prevent it. So that's my thinking. So I'm likely going to vote in favor of this motion.
Okay. Mr. Moore, did I see your hand or no? Okay. Any other points of discussion? I too will be in favor of this motion, going through the non-use variances, which all 4 must be met in order to grant the variance. This chapter's restrictions unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for permitted use. Nope, they can build a house. They just can't build the house that they want to build. The variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as the property owner in this district, and a lesser relaxation would not give substantial justice or relief to the owner. That could be argued one way or another for those who like the houses that don't look like garages all on their street, which most of this neighborhood is. and more of a front porch approach, you could say they would not want this, but as you can see, no one came to speak for or against this. The plight of the landowner is due to the unique circumstance of the property. As we discussed, 50 foot is a common width, and in fact, I've got a $900,000 house that was built on my street, 45 foot width, with a detached 2-car garage beyond it, and the depth of the lot is only 100 feet. As you can see, people are willing to pay for a house with a detached garage no matter what. So I can't see a unique circumstance in this case. And alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently in having interest in the property. In my opinion, they're creating it because they got a blank slate and they want to have this as their blank slate, what to do. And they just disagree with what the interpretation has been. So unfortunately, because they at least 2 to 3 in my eyes have not been met, I cannot see granting the variance. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of denying the variance signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Variance has been denied. Sorry. We will move on to case number 24-12-37 for 621 South Vermont. Whenever you are ready, you may take it away.
This property has a long, detailed history, which is highlighted in your staff report, but I will briefly go through it. The property itself contains a single-family dwelling. Back in June of 2023, the petitioner applied for permits through the building division to conduct interior alterations and then also to build a second-level addition. That permit at the time was denied due to the fact that the addition was encroaching into the minimum required setbacks. The petitioner then subsequently applied for a variance application to this board. And staff had gone back and forth with the petitioner during that time to address certain discrepancies in measurements that were displayed on their plans provided. But the petitioner's architect was unable to successfully address staff's review comments. Time had gone by, and then finally in October of 2023, the petitioner indicated to staff that they would like to withdraw that variance application and then just revise their drawings in order to bring their plans into compliance. In May of 2024, the city's code enforcement issued a violation for work that was done without permits to the property. And a series of photographs that were included in your packets show evidence of both interior and exterior modifications. So the petitioner again submitted for a new variance in May of this year to address these things. So again, the petitioner did submit the same plans that were provided to us last year, but fortunately in October of 2024, staff did receive a stamped survey from a surveyor from the petitioner, and that's what these variances are based upon. So more specifically going into the variances themselves, the petitioner would still be proposing to remove the second story and do a full height second story addition. Looking at the front elevation, the second story is going to be slightly offset from the first floor. Based on a lot width, the minimum required north side yard setback is going to have to be 5 feet.
Bless you.
At the nearest point of the first floor, it's just 1.5 feet. But with the second story being offset slightly, it's going to have a 3.9 foot north side yard setback. The zoning ordinance also requires a 25-foot front yard setback. The existing house only maintains an 11.5 foot front yard setback, and that's measured to the closest point of living space on the house itself. So in this case, it would be located just directly behind the front enclosed porch. And so obviously you can also see on the elevations that the second story addition is going to maintain the same plane as the first level. So that means that it's also going to have the same non-compliant front yard setback. And the zoning ordinance obviously requires any alterations, additions, or modifications have to conform with all current zoning ordinance standards. and that would include setbacks. So the petitioner's proposal does not gain compliance with the minimum required side yard nor the front yard setback. So the petitioner first needs a variance to allow for a non-conforming structure to be modified in a non-conforming manner. There's a second variance required to waive the 1.1 feet from the minimum required north side yard setback. And then there's also the third variance required to waive the 13.5 feet from the minimum required west front yard setback as well. Thank you.
Okay, questions for, yes, Mr. Pratt?
Alex, question regarding the front yard setback at 25 feet. Looks like the average of all the homes that are adjacent to it are pretty tight to that front lot line.
Mm-hmm.
So the average doesn't take place here?
No, so if the average of the adjacent properties is less than 25 feet, then 25 feet becomes the standard minimum.
So that second story would have to be 25 feet back, which pretty much makes it unusable.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions? All right, seeing none, petitioner is present. You may come forward and present your case.
Good evening. My name is William Gablis. I'm the owner and petitioner requesting a non-use variance. First off, I'd like to apologize for, all the non-permitted work and stuff that's gone on. But in hindsight, it's a lot of lesson learned from this. I actually got my builder's license and, have learned a lot of good information from that. And I'm requesting this variance because my hardship is that basically I'd have to tear down the entire structure and move the foundation and just start over. And when I initially moved into the house, it had not been updated in maybe 50 years. I mean, they took care of it, but it had not been tube wiring. It was, probably lead paint. It was not up to date to today's standards, and I wanted to improve the home, and I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted, and I think my resolution of doing the proposed plans would be an improvement to the neighborhood, and the curb appeal would be a lot better, and I know my neighbors are definitely tired of looking at an eyesore, so I'm trying to figure out how we can get to a resolution that will be beneficial to everyone. Let's see. And I also would like to comment that the back addition, I don't know when it was built, but that was after the original build. So, because you can tell in the basement, it's like a cellar basement, so that's like why it's also 1.1 foot, and that's only the back 10 foot of the house. And then other than that, I hope the board will consider issuing the variance. And does anyone else have questions?
Does anyone have questions for the petitioner? Mr. Wolf.
Just to clarify, this variance will help you get in compliance with the code enforcement case against you?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, just confirming.
Mr. Gavin.
Had you started much construction, or is this like mostly demo work that you've done so far?
Mostly demo work. Once I got my license, I was like, there's no way I gotta get the permits and, get everything approved either way. So I was like, I kind of saw building a dormer as practice, and, I was like, if I gotta take it down, it's not the end of the world. It is an inconvenience for my neighbors. So that's why at this point, I'm just like, gotta get go through the proper channels and just get the job done as soon as possible, whether the variance is issued or not. But I think an issuance of the variance would be a great benefit to everyone in the community, because really it's just then if I put it back to how it was, it's gonna just be another house that is not really up to modern standards in the city, so.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we'll open up to public comment. Afterwards, we'll ask if you want us to proceed or to delay on one, because we only have 8 members instead of 9.
Okay.
But as I've said to everyone else, there's no guarantee next month we'll have a full board either. So.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. All right, we'll open this to public comment. Anyone to speak for or against this case, please come forward. Going once, going twice. All right, public comment is closed. Would you like us to proceed or to delay for a month?
Proceed.
Okay, we'll bring it to this side of the board for discussion and or motion. Anyone? Ms.
Oh,
Robinson?
and maybe this is a question that the real problem is, looking at this, is that whatever you call it, the angle of that lot, is that one part of the house is closer to that side lot in the back on the north side.
Skewed.
Skewed,
Yeah.
thank you, couldn't find the word.
If you look at the,
I'm looking at the survey.
Yeah.
Right here, right there in the back,
Right.
right there.
down,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, it does shrink down there, but you can see further up towards the front of the house, it does widen to about 2.82 feet as
Okay,
well.
yeah, okay.
Mr. Wolf, and then Mr. Cap.
I'll make a motion to approve the first variance, which is to expand a non-conforming, or the expansion of a non-conforming structure.
Okay. Is there a second? Mr. Klatt, go ahead.
This is similar to some other houses that we've had in that neighborhood. I don't live too far from there. It obviously, when that house was built, the rules were different, and he's trying to make a house that is kind of within what is practical on the lot, and what if he were to do that today, he wouldn't be able to do it. So,
Mr. Klatt?
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think the practical difficulty is that the irregular shaped lot, the house is skewed. This gentleman didn't build the original house. He had no say where it was placed. And my initial thought, could we do something to lessen that? But if you were to even lessen it, I mean, there's not much room to lessen here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, practical difficulty exists.
All right, any other discussions? All right, I agree. You guys have said it pretty good. This is a hard one, and we normally have no problem allowing construction on renovation on a house that's already non-conforming. So because of that, I have no problem. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion carries, so we got one out of the way. Anyone want, Mr. Klatt?
I'll make a motion to approve the other two.
Okay, is there a second? Mr. Moore seconds. Go ahead, Mr. Klatt.
I already said what I needed to say.
Yep. Mr. Moore, anything to add?
Nothing else to add, thanks.
Okay. Anyone? Mr. Gavin?
Just a couple things with building up. Like certainly the front yard setback, there's like literally nothing you can do about that. But with the second story, he's actually, by stepping it back, he's actually decreasing, and to some extent, the amount of the variance needed, which is nice. I am glad that you went ahead and got your builder's permit and are coming into compliance with all the permitting requirements moving forward. So hopefully that won't be an issue moving forward anymore. And it was just the fact that you've pretty much just, I know you built that dormer on the back, but it's going to get torn down anyway. So I don't view this as necessarily being self-created, since everything else has just been demo so far. So I'm in support.
Okay. Mr. Wolf?
I'm going to also vote in support of this. I split them up just because I wasn't 100% sure about what I thought about the the dormer but everything else. But that, listening to my colleagues talk about it, it makes more sense. I'm also all in favor of you complying with code enforcement. So if this helps you comply with that, then I'm obviously going to support it.
Any other comments? I too will be in support of this motion. Going through the variances, the non-use variance thing. He can't really do any renovation like he, even if pushing back and make it any reasonable, if we don't grant this for it, and it would do substantial justice to allow him to do renovation. It's not his, it's a unique circumstance, that's not his fault, that was not created by him as to how the house was plotted versus the land. So because of that, I don't have a problem with. If there's no other comments, we'll move to, well,
One other comment I wanted to add, there was the 3 letters in support at the end of the thing.
Yeah,
I just wanted
that's-
to note those for the record.
yeah,
great
you are
point.
correct, his neighbors are in support too, so there's no one against it.
So just final observation, it's usually when you build that close to a side lot line or any lot line, it usually triggers the need for fire-rated walls and reduction of windows. But that's something you'll deal with the building department for.
All right, seeing no other discussion, we'll move to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations, best of luck to you. Okay. Yep. And that brings us to other business. I don't believe we have any other business. Public comment. Is there anyone to speak? You're not public.
I know, but where else am I going to talk?
You're going to be after public comment. So we'll let the public first speak and then we'll let you.
Okay, fair.
Okay, anyone to speak on public comment may do so at this moment. Going once, going twice, 3 times, all right. For some reason, Mr. Gavin wants to speak. I don't know why that is. Go ahead, Mr. Gavin, I'll let you have the floor.
I just wanted to thank everyone. It's been, I love being on this board. I love giving back to the city. I'm going to miss coming to these. I'm going to be busy doing other things, so I mean, not quite as present, but I'm going to miss this, and I'm going to miss you guys, and yeah, I hope once my life calms down a little bit, I'll be able to reapply and do some more stuff with the city, whatever commission or board you guys have for me.
We will miss you.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
And Ms. Zukin, who's not here, if you're watching here, Deb, we very much appreciate your efforts all these years. It was her term's up also. Both of you have done a great service for the city, helping us along this board, giving your thoughts and comments throughout the years. So I greatly appreciate all your efforts through these years, and you will both be missed. And we'll need someone else to step up and do your part of going through and.
I know, that's what I'm really gonna miss.
He took over for me because I used to do that. So, so you will be missed, and I definitely hope that when you reapply, to whatever board you want to, they put you on it, because you are an excellent contributor, and as well as Deb, to the board. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
And then with that, do you have a motion for the final motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second? Silent Deb. Mr. Clapp. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Happy holidays, everyone. May you have a happy, safe holiday season, New Year, and we'll see you all next year. Thank you.